a little bit of a different reflection than what you shared. That is my bad, and not being a good communicator on that. But we'll bring back the um, the instinct of a warrior, the warrior instinct. We'll bring that back
All right.
in a later session. And let me see if that works a little better. I'm having some contact lens issues, so try not to get too much of a reflection off my glasses. But hey, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year.
Good morning,
We
Father
are
Lego.
in 2022. Welcome everybody. All right. So the reflection for the day is called "I'm my own fan. Getting to know yourself better." And we're going to start with this quote from Bell Hooks, who we lost. Just going into the holiday, and so a lot of folks have been circulating her quotes. And I will admit that I haven't been super familiar with her work, but I actually had a chance to get more familiar with her work, after her life, and people sharing some things. So this quote says, "Knowing how to be solitary is central to the art of loving. When we can be alone, we can be with others without using them as a means of escape." So we live in a time with technology that is just mind-boggling. I mean, I remember when a modem used to be 300 baud and you plugged it into your phone, and that was our version of the internet, if you will. I remember writing games in the basic programming language, and I was saving them as a kid to a cassette recorder. So to think about, within half of a lifetime, folks talking about VR goggles, and just bought, my Santa Claus bought for my daughter a 3D printer. I mean, that was just unimaginable just, not so long ago. Even the ubiquity of video conferencing that we just take for granted over the past couple of years, everything, Zoom, WebEx, whatever, man, all that stuff just 4 or 5 years ago was unimaginable. But there's a flip side to this, right? Um, you know, as much wonderful, awesome technology as we also have more distractions now than we've ever had, right? Those of us who are on the Zoom chat who went to Morehouse, if you took Dr. Aaron Parker back in the day, he was our philosophy and religion professor. I actually took him for both, but he was as close as we would have 30 years ago to being a professor who was woke AF, right? And I remember him saying something that always stood out to me. He said, "There will never be a time in the United States when it's not some sports season. There will never be a time in the United States throughout the whole calendar year when it's not some sports season." He said, because as a society, we are so afraid of silence. We're so afraid of the thoughts that will come up when we're not distracted by football or basketball or baseball or the Olympics or whatever. We always need something, to keep our minds occupied. Now, to be clear, these reflections always start off as a conversation that I'm having with myself, right? So I don't ever want anybody to think, wow, John's being kind of judgmental, kind of some finger pointing going on. This is always a conversation with John. And then I say, man, I think that, the Broga family might actually benefit from this as well. So here are a couple thoughts that I want to share with you all on getting to know ourselves better. Number one, I am my own fan. Those of you who really know me know that I am a big fan of Jadakiss, the rapper, and he has this one lyric that I really like. He says, and this will be a little not safe for work, so if y'all got kids, maybe put your headphones on or whatever. He says, "I got my own plan, handle mine like a grown man. As long as I know I'm nice, fuck it, I'm my own fan." I love that part. As long as I know I'm nice, fuck it, I'm my own fan. We live in a world of constant competition, so much so that it's hardwired into our DNA through millions of years of instinct. So that bravado that we hear in hip hop, that what Chuck D said called mental self-defensive fitness that we hear, there's a reason for that, right? It's protective, especially if you grew up as a black kid in this world. Human societies create all kinds of games and subterfuge to declare war on our self-image without ever letting us know that we're actually at war. And if we're not careful, we develop this monkey mind. Tracy Willis, I know you guys have probably heard that from your practice, especially in meditation, that this mind is just jumping all over the place and it's hopping from topic to topic, and everything it's hopping to is some externally constructed definition of good enough, and how we don't meet that. So we've got to get quiet and meditate on the areas of our lives where we are actually doing great. I read recently that we're often like kids who say, I don't like Brussels sprouts, I don't like broccoli, I don't like something. And oftentimes we as adults, we're talking about something about ourselves that we don't like. But just like a kid, when you really dig into it, the kid doesn't even know anything about that food. They've probably never even tasted it. They're not familiar with it. And so we, just like the kids, we have to spend that time to actually get to know ourselves so that we're not walking around, carrying some type of self-esteem issue or whatever. And the reality is, it's not that we have a lack of self-esteem, we have a lack of self-knowledge. We don't even know ourselves. And then the second thing I wanted to share with you all is don't be a net taker from your peer group, right? Bell Hooks quote says that we need to learn how to be alone so that we don't misuse our friends. We don't misuse the others in our lives that we're in relationship with. Now, to be clear, you should find joy and comfort and solace and support from your friends, but we shouldn't come to our friends with an insatiable need for escape or to be entertained, nor should we come into our friends with an unfillable hole that we're always expecting them to fill back up for us, right? That's not fair to your friends, and it's actually not fair to you either, because you're robbing yourself of something important to your future, something that your friends can't give you anyway. And then that's the number three, right? God speaks to us when we're alone. If we look back in the Bible, we see multiple examples of God had to basically separate people out before God could be in direct communication with them. So we see Abraham had to leave his people. Moses had to go up on the mountain to talk to God. Elijah is in a cave when he hears a still small voice. Jesus went away into the desert to be tempted, right? But then Jesus is also alone at the end of his life in the Garden of Gethsemane when he goes to pray. So this pattern makes me think that there are times in our lives where God needs our complete attention. We can't be distracted. We can't be hanging out with our buddies. We can't be, on our phones or whatever. God needs our complete attention. But then when I really thought about it, what I really thought about on this, I said, wow, maybe the real conclusion here is it's more likely that there are times when we need to give God our complete attention, and not just for the once in a lifetime pivotal instruction, but just checking in like we do in any other relationship that we have. Yes, God is always speaking into our lives, but we should carve out some time on a regular basis to get quiet and check in with God as well. All right. If you all would just stand up, if you're not already standing up, and let's go through our intention. This would be a fairly short one. We've only got one for the day. All right. And you all know I'll read it, and then I'll say this is our intention, and then your response is, and so it is our intention. So, all right, let us be intentional about quieting down all of the distractions, the buzzing and dinging of our phones, the constant whirring of life, and just get quiet for a few minutes. Let us commit to taking a few minutes each day to do nothing but breathe. And in that few minutes, let us listen more deeply. Let us listen for the still small voice that gets drowned out in all of the commotion and chatter. Let us recognize that voice as the voice of God that lives within us. And let us be ever mindful that that voice is eternal. It's all powerful, it's all knowing, and it is infinite, and it is our number one fan. This is our intention.
And so it is our intention.
We pray these and all things in the names of both our ancestors and our unborn grandchildren. Amen, Ashe, Namaste, and so it is.
That was amazing. Very honest for me, definitely. Yeah, and so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. And one of the things that I would just like to maybe piggyback on that and say is that, you know, sometimes those distractions that we occupy our mind and our time with are not always viewed as negative things. Sometimes it's overworking or staying in the gym or, you know, anything. Even meditation can become a distraction from the action that it takes to create some change in our lives. So that is definitely an on-time word. And let's carry that with us as we move through today's practice. Sometimes our bodies can prevent or create small distractions, pull us out of our mindfulness and into that monkey mind of just ruminating thoughts and things like that. So as we flow through our practice today, keep that in mind, staying grounded in the breath, staying grounded in the breathing and the present moment, and in the idea of self-love versus fear. So yeah, that with you as we move today. If you're not there already, go ahead and find a seat on your mat, a comfortable seated position. We're going to start seated, taking it kind of light to warm us up. Whatever